Hello everyone. In this today's video tutorial, in this session, we are going to discuss one numerical based on eccentrically loaded voltage joint in shear. This today's video tutorial belongs to CO number 5, wherein after studying this unit, the students will be able to design threaded and welded joints subjected to eccentric loads like chip-headed cranes. Four different type of numericals can be based upon this consideration of threaded joints. Numericals eccentrically loaded bolted joints in shear. Numericals for eccentrically loaded bolted joints wherein the eccentric load is perpendicular to the axis of the board. Eccentric load parallel to the axis of the board, and bolted joints in tensile loads. Of which of these four, the very first type, eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear, that we are going to discuss in this video tutorial. A plate or a bracket is attached to a support using Z number of bolts, and the plate is subjected to load W, which is considered to be eccentric because it is not passing through the CG of the bolted system. In such cases, these bolts are called to be subjected to eccentric load, which is of shearing nature. This eccentric load, this applied load W, will cause shearing of the cross section of the bolts. In such cases, two different type of shear stresses are getting developed inside the cross section of the bolts, primary and the secondary. Primary forces are given by W upon Z in magnitude, where W is the applied load and Z is the number of bolts. In direction, those primary forces are opposite to the direction of applied load. Here, applied load is in downward sense, so primary force will be in upward sense. Its magnitude, primary force magnitude, will be W applied load divided by Z. In this case, Z is equal to 4, where Z is the number of volts. Then we have to find out secondary shear forces, which are given by a constant C multiplied by L. Then we have to find out vector sum of primary and secondary force so as to find out resultant shear force as experienced by each of the bolt. Then considering assuming identical bolts at all the places in the bolted joint or bolted assembly, therefore critically loaded, the bolt which experiences maximum resultant shear force is called as critically loaded bolt, and the design will be based on this critically loaded bolt, or the design will be based on maximum shear force as experienced by any of the bolt. Now this maximum shear force divided by core cross section area is the induced maximum shear stress, that is when equated with permissible shear stress. While equating tau max induced maximum shear stress with permissible shear stress, while equating tau max with tau permissible, AC, the core cross section area, is the unknown. Value of AC will be found out. AC is equal to pi by 4 DC square. Therefore, core diameter will be calculated. Core diameter either divided by 0.84 or multiplied by 1.19. That will represent D, the nominal diameter of the bolt. Once we find value of nominal diameter of the bolt, the nearby standard value, standard M value, is selected as the size of bolt. Let us solve one numerical. Herein, one plate or one bracket is attached to the support using four different bolts, four identical bolts. In this particular case, the directly specified value of tau permissible. Generally, tau permissible is calculated as SSY upon factor of safety, where SSY is given by 0.5 times SYT upon factor of safety. But here, in this particular case, they have directly specified value of tau permissible, which is required later on, but here we have mentioned it. The primary forces are given by W upon Z, where Z is the number of bolts, W is the applied load, which is 5700 Newton. So 5700 divided by 4, that will represent primary forces which will be same in magnitude for each of the board, and those are in magnitude equal to 1425 Newton. The direction of these primary forces will be opposite to the direction of applied load. Applied load is in downward sense, therefore primary forces will be in opposite, that means upward sense. Now here this bolted system is asymmetric. It is not symmetric, therefore by mere inspection or by judgment we cannot predict the center of gravity, and therefore we have to locate the center of gravity by some consideration. Here the consideration will be such that the lower left bolt will be selected and its center is assumed as origin in Cartesian coordinate system. In this case, the all the four bolts are same level, therefore there is nothing like lower bolt, but the leftmost bolt, lower left, or in this case the leftmost bolt, bolt number 1, and its center will be considered as a center or origin for the Cartesian coordinate system. So Cartesian coordinate system will be x coordinate, x axis and y axis. Now considering this center of board number 1 as the origin 0 0, we can find out coordinates for board number 2, 3 and 4. So here for board number 2, x coordinate will be 300, y coordinate will be 0. So x coordinate will be 300, y coordinate will be 0. For board number 3, x coordinate will be 300 plus 150, so 450. Y coordinate is 0, so 450 and 0. For board number 4, it is x coordinate is 300 plus 150 plus 200, so 650. X coordinate is 650 and y coordinate is 0, so 650 and 0. So here, after finding out coordinates for each of the board, for board number 1 it is 0 0, x1 is 0, y1 is 0. For all the boards, board number 1 2 3 4, y coordinate is 0, you can see here, and x coordinates for board number 2 it is x2 is equal to 300, for board number 3 x3 is equal to 450, for board number 4 x4 is equal to 650. Now x bar, the coordinate of CG, center of gravity of the bolted system, is given by x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus xz. Here z is equal to 4, therefore x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus x4 divided by z is equal to 4. So x1 is 0, that is omitted, plus x2 is 300 plus x3 is 450 plus x4 is 650. Their summation divided by 4. So x bar, x coordinate for center of gravity is 350. Y coordinate, y1 plus y2 plus y3 plus y4, all of them are 0 divided by 4. So it is 0. So center of gravity G will have x coordinate as 350, y coordinate is 0. So considering board number 1, its center as origin for a Cartesian coordinate system, x coordinate is 350, that is CG will lie at a distance of 50 from board number 2. CG will lie somewhere here at a distance of 50 from board number 2. Y coordinate is 0, and that is 0 for all the boards present in the system. So CG will be shown as here. CG will be at a distance of 50 millimeters from the board number 2, because its x coordinate is 350. So from board number 1 to 2 is 300, and from board number 2 it will be at a distance of 50. So in total 350 is the x coordinate for center of gravity, y coordinate is 0. Now here For finding out the secondary forces, secondary shear forces, we are in need of distances L1, L2, L3, L4, because multiplying constant C with these distances, we can find out secondary forces as experienced by board number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So now it is our task to find out these distances L1, L2, L3 and L4. L1, L2, L3, L4 are the distances of that particular board from the CG. So for board number 1, its distance from CG is 350. So L1 is equal to 350. For board number 2, its distance from CG is 50. So L2 is equal to 50. Distance between board number 2 and 3 is 150, but G is lying at a distance of 50 from board number 2. So therefore, board number 3 is lying at a distance of 100 from G. So L3, the distance between G and board number 3 is 100. So L3 is equal to 100. This board number 3 is at a distance of 100 from G. So this 100 plus this 200. So total 300 will be the distance between point G and point 4. Board number 4. Therefore, this distance between center of board number 4 from CG will be 300 and L4 will be equal to 300. Now, the constant C will be calculated, which is given by W into E divided by L1 square plus L2 square plus L3 square plus L4 square. By mistake, I have not mentioned L4 square. It should be L plus L4 square here. Now values of L1, L2, L3, L4 are known to us. So we can use values of L1, L2, L3, L4 in the denominator. In the numerator, W into E. W is 5700. So the value of W can be used in the formula. E is the eccentricity. Eccentricity is the distance between line of action of the force from the CG. So you can see here, line of action of the force from the CG is at a distance of 100 millimeters. So therefore E is equal to 100. So after using known values, you will be in position to calculate value of C, that happens to be equal to 2.53 Newton per millimeter. After multiplying this value of C by different values of L1, L2, L3, L4, etc., we shall be in position to calculate secondary forces Fs1, Fs2, Fs3, Fs4 at board number 1, 2, 3, 4 respectively. So those values will be as shown in this figure or in this slide. Now, after that, let us decide the directions of primary and secondary forces. Primary forces are always acting in opposite sense to the applied load. Applied load is in downward sense. Therefore, primary forces as shown by the pink colored arrows are in upward sense. Now, as far as secondary forces are concerned, secondary forces will act in such a direction so as to cause rotation of the bracket in opposite sense to the sense caused due to applied load. Now here you can note that applied load will try to rotate the bracket in anti-clockwise sense. Generally, we have came across numericals wherein generally the applied load was causing clockwise movement of the bracket. But here in this case, please note that the applied load will cause anti-clockwise rotation of the bracket. So secondary force has to be employed in such a way as to cause clockwise rotation of the bracket, opposite to the sense of rotation as caused by the external force. External force is causing anti-clockwise movement of the bracket, anti-clockwise rotation of the bracket. Therefore, secondary forces will cause, should cause the clockwise rotation of the bracket. For deciding the direction of secondary force, the consideration is to join the center of board to the center of gravity. Say for board number one, its center is joined with center of gravity. A line drawn perpendicular will be the line of action of the secondary force. Secondary force has to act in such a direction as to cause opposite moment of the bracket to opposite to the moment or rotation caused due to applied load. Applied load is causing anti-clockwise movement. Therefore, secondary force has to cause clockwise movement. This direction of the secondary force Fs1 shown by green colored arrow is correct because it will cause clockwise rotation of the bracket. Similar for bolt number 2, Fs2 as shown by green colored arrow will cause clockwise rotation of the bracket. Now here for bolt number 3, after joining center of gravity to the center of bolt number 3, a line drawn perpendicular to the line joining CG to the center of the bolt will be the line of action of the force. Here the green colored arrow as shown for Fs3 will cause clockwise movement of the bracket, which is opposite to the rotation of the anti-clockwise rotation of the bracket caused due to applied load. Therefore, this direction as shown here for secondary force at bolt number 3 is correct one. Similarly, for bolt number 4, downward will be the direction of secondary force at bolt number 4, which will cause clockwise rotation of the bracket, which is opposite to the rotation caused due to applied load. So, these are the directions of primary and secondary forces. Now, here we can predict Fr1, the resultant of this primary and secondary force for bolt number 1 will be calculated as Fp1 plus Fs1. For bolt number 2, again Fp2 plus Fs2. For bolt number 3, primary and secondary force are in opposite sense, therefore Fs3 is subtracted from Fp3. Similarly, for bolt number 4, the primary and secondary forces are in opposite sense, therefore Fs4 is subtracted from Fp4. The same is shown here, and we have calculated resultant forces at different bolts. So here by comparing these values, we can note that Fr1 is the maximum amongst all these Fr1, Fr2, Fr3 and Fr4. Therefore, Fr1 is the Fr max, and bolt number 1 has experiences maximum resultant shear force. Therefore, bolt number 1 is the critically loaded bolt, and its resultant shear force will be taken into account for further analysis. So here Fr max is the resultant shear force as experienced by bolt number 1, which is equal to 2291.66. So 2291.66 Fr max divided by core cross section area, that is the induced maximum shear stress. When that equated with permissible shear stress is specified in the given data itself, which is equal to 83.65. When we equate induced stress with permissible stress, while equating AC, the core cross-section area is the only unknown that will be found out. In this particular case, that is equal to 27.39 millimeter square. Once we find value of AC is equal to pi by 4 dc square. So equating AC with pi by 4 dc square, we are in position to calculate DC, the core diameter, which happens to be equal to 5.9 millimeter. Multiplying this core diameter by 1.19 or dividing this core diameter by 0.84, we can find out value of D, the nominal diameter for the bolt. In this particular case, that happens to be equal to 7.02 millimeter. Next standard size of the bolt is M8. Therefore, M8 bolts are selected for this bolted assembly, which will be safe and acceptable. So likewise, we have to decide or we have to design the bolt for bolted assembly, which is subjected to eccentric load, which is of shearing nature, which will be lying in the plane of the bolts and which will cause primary as well as secondary shear of the bolts. So in this today's video tutorial, in today's session or discussion, We have studied what are the threaded joints, four type of threaded joints, how to find out primary and secondary forces, how to find out resultant of primary and secondary forces, and how to design eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear. So that's all. Thank you.